doubt in my mind that I would actually believe someone back in 2018 if they tried to tell me that I would have a comfort show about a little blue dog playing games with their friends and family, especially if they told me it was a show meant for toddlers. Because really, Bluey is a simply basic, silly show about childhood and nothing more. And that's what makes it such a wonderful experience. I'm being serious when I say this. I know it's unbelievable, but let me explain it, because I'm sure a lot of you are wondering what it is about this children's cartoon that's taken a lot of adults by storm. And to really explain it, we're gonna have to get into its origins first. Created by Joe Brum, Bluey is an Australian cartoon that came out in 2018, produced by Ludo Studio, about a blue healer named, you guessed it, Bluey, as she uses her imagination to play things like grannies, hospital, and magic with her family and friends. Of course, with the target demographic being, well, preschoolers, the show has many morals and values and wants to teach kids, like bedtimes, not giving up, taking turns, etc. You know, the kind of stuff you would expect from what people consider a baby show. Which it is, but regardless, I'm trying to make a point here. The point is that Bluey knows exactly what its demographic is, but instead of talking down to its audience by tacking on whatever moral it's trying to teach at the end of the episode, it actually goes out of its way to let children come to realization themselves with subtle pushes here and there. I mean, there's a really good example in the episode Shadowlands, where one of Bluey's friends, Coco, is constantly changing the rules of the games they play to make it easier both for her and her friends to win. And while the sentiment is sweet, Bluey ends up being annoyed by this because it takes the fun out of playing, but she doesn't really understand how to explain that to her, nor does she understand that's the reason why it's no longer fun. But by the conclusion of it, Coco realizes the reason why she should follow the rules, and it's because the rules make the games they play more fun, and it's something she figures out by herself without anyone else's input or reasons. Another really good one is Butterflies. In this episode, we meet one of Bluey's next door neighbors, Judo, and she's not really presented in the best light, being instantly hostile towards Bingo by openly glaring at her and remarking how slow she is, all because she's younger than her. They could have easily just made Judo the character that likes to bully kids smaller than her just for the fun of it and leave it at that, but instead, right from the beginning, Bluey tells Bingo that the reason Judo is like this, as aside from Bluey herself, Judo has no one else to play with. And the thing is, while it might not click for some children, it can for others, as it shows that Judo is most likely jealous of Bingo being able to play with Bluey more than she is, seeing that Bluey is her only friend, which is probably the reason that she ends up convincing Bluey to hide from Bingo just so they can play a different game without her. Eventually, since Bluey is a good sister, she obviously doesn't enjoy leaving Bingo out of it, and she winds up running away from Judo when she's not looking, easily picking her sister over her. And it's here that when Judo gets a taste of her own medicine, finds she doesn't quite like it very much, and is able to accept that no one should be excluded and becomes friends with Bingo. Both of these episodes are a great example of why it's a no-brainer why kids adore Bluey so much. I mean, come on, it's a bunch of cute puppies playing imaginary games and getting into fun hijinks. What's not to love for kids? But, of course, while that perfectly explains why children enjoy Bluey, it still begs the question of why adults do. And that, my friends, I have actually found there are two different categories of why that is. The first one is actually pretty simple, and that's because a lot of parents actually find it a good learning tool for themselves and how they parent, with lots of praise going towards how Bluey teaches its topics to children, such as infertility or favoritism, being a straightforward but easy way for kids to understand, making it a show for parents to appreciate. And the other category of adults that enjoy this show, and this is the one I'm sure most people are still stuck on, that same question of how a show for preschoolers warrants a fandom of adults. And that same question has led to assumptions of adults fighting children for plushies and creating the next MLP fandom. Honestly, it makes me laugh at how ridiculous these assumptions are, and even more so after seeing Bluey and the type of stuff its fandom posts. Because seriously, there is no one fighting children over a stuffed dog. I have tried looking for the video of this supposed incident, and the only one I've come across is this one of a woman in her home making a joke POV of how she fought off a child for a giant plushie of Bluey. And for me personally, I instantly could tell this was a joke because I've seen plenty of other instances of people saying they did similar things for stuff like Pokemon cards or Squishmallows. Both things designed for children, by the way, for those who've forgotten. I mean, if someone wants to link me to actual footage of an adult Bluey fan fighting a child, then go ahead. I won't defend someone who actually does something like that, and they definitely should be called out for it and held accountable. But one bad person in a fandom is not enough to categorize an entire fandom. This is why I believe the assumption of people comparing the My Little Pony fandom to Bluey is one out of ignorance. I was 9 years old when the MLP fandom kicked off, and over the course of my hyperfixation with it, I was exposed to all kinds of gore and porn, from art to videos to fics, and I can unhappily say stuff like cupcakes and those types of bronies royally traumatized me by overly sexualizing a show for children. But the same cannot be said for the Bluey fandom, and really, it's gotta be one of the most wholesome fandoms I've ever experienced. A lot of what I've seen is cute fan art, clips being reposted, and of course, tons of edits. Aside from that though, I haven't come across anyone problematic, nor have I heard of part of the fandom that could be. But just because I haven't doesn't mean there isn't. But that being said, the way the Bluey fandom is now is nowhere near to what people claim to being like how the My Little Pony fandom was back in the day. Since I've cleared up any misconceptions that people may have about adults who love Bluey, I feel like I have better ground to really explain what draws them into it, and it's actually something I find sadly comforting. I stated in the beginning that Bluey is a simple children's cartoon about childhood, and I still believe it because I think it's the exact reason why adults have made a fandom around it. I mean, really, it's about a wholesome family spending their everyday lives having fun, not because of the things they do, but because they truly love being around each other. Bluey and Bingo could be sitting outside of a restaurant waiting for their dad to get takeout, but instead of complaining or ignoring each other, they are able just to have fun with a water tap and some menus. Bluey's favorite toy could be taken from her, and instead of just making her give it to her cousin, her family arranges an entire horse wedding to act as a distraction so she can get it back. Or even Chili could be overly stressed out from being overworked, and instead of bandit pawning the kids off on her anyway, he plays whatever game it takes to keep his children from bothering her. Bluey is a family that loves being a family, and for someone like me, I not only highly appreciate seeing it get a positive reception from people, but I can also feel myself heal a bit as I'm watching, and I know, that might seem silly or even sad, but it's just the truth, and I'm not gonna be embarrassed about it, especially if others can be so open about enjoying Bluey. Alright, I'm gonna give you guys a bit of a heads up before I get into this, but to really explain why I appreciate Bluey, I'm gonna have to get a little personal. The reason I enjoy Bluey is because it gives me a type of comfort I didn't get growing up, which wasn't great. Not to say it was bad either, but it definitely wasn't fun. Seeing as I was alone a lot as a kid, with my parents working and my siblings wanting barely anything to do with each other, but they would occasionally make time to play with me, with a game, or with my dolls. But even then, it wasn't often, as they both had much better things they would rather be doing. There's more to it than just that, but it's not something I really want to get into. But it's the perfect example to express why exactly Bluey has gathered the audience it has. Because, well, there's nothing I can do to change my childhood, but I can acknowledge it and move past it, as today, right here and now, I have friends and a dog who make me happy. I have a job I'm pretty alright at, but I know I can do better. I have hobbies I enjoy, and now I have Bluey, a happy little blue healer who has a healthy and loving family that shows me what a true family is all about. Because no matter their differences or the fights they get into, at the end of the day they'll always come to be a better understanding of one another and will continue to grow with each other because of it. So yeah, there you have it. The reason why Bluey is so beloved by children and adults alike is that for children the answer is obvious. It's a show that doesn't talk down to them, that includes talking dogs that play fun games. And for adults, it's not only a learning tool for parenting, but for other adults, it's a type of therapeutic healing from either not having a proper childhood or even not a good one. I'm sure a lot of people are still gonna be pretty adamant regardless of what I've said in this video about adults enjoying this show, but honestly, people who like Bluey really aren't different from the Disney adults or whatever is the term for those people who like to collect squishmallows. The Bluey fandom is literally harmless, and their enjoyment of it is definitely understandable to me, yet I wouldn't really consider myself part of its fandom, but to those who do, y'all do cute stuff, keep it up. As long as no one is being a weirdo and actually fighting children, I'm perfectly satisfied with how the fandom is as of now. I don't really have anything else to say. Just let people enjoy what they like and call out actual problems instead of following other people's assumptions just because you don't care to do your own research. And if you happen to be one of those people yourself, then, well, how does that grass taste, little sheep?